You're right in the middle of articulating a thought, and suddenly an artificial voice chimes in from the counter to answer a question you never actually asked. Or perhaps you are watching a high-stakes political debate, and the candidates spend more time shouting over one another than addressing the actual policy issues. We teach children from a very young age that interrupting is a failure of self-regulation. You wait your turn, you raise your hand, and you listen. Yet, if you look around at boardrooms, family dinners, and public forums, adults do it constantly. Cutting someone off is a highly complex social mechanism. It dictates exactly who holds authority in a room and whose voice gets erased from the record. Every single time a sentence is severed mid-thought, it acts like a diagnostic test. It instantly reveals the psychological states, the cultural norms, and the invisible hierarchies operating beneath the surface of the conversation. On an individual level, the impulse to interject usually points to one of two internal states. A speaker is either actively trying to assert dominance and control the narrative, or they are exhibiting sheer impatience and a lack of self-regulation. But that assumes a very Western perspective. In many collectivist cultures, chiming in while someone else is speaking is the opposite of rude. It acts as a signal of deep engagement, an enthusiastic way to show you are actively listening to the speaker's ideas. This graphic illustrates what linguists call conversational overlap. In a disruptive interruption, a second voice crashes in and abruptly shuts down the original thought. By contrast, in collaborative overlap, the second voice smoothly overlays the first to validate a point, harmonizing the two thoughts completely. When used destructively, however, it functions as a blunt instrument of control. Ancient orators like Cicero frequently dealt with hecklers whose sole purpose was to weaponize noise to derail political discourse. That exact same dynamic plays out in the modern workplace. Sociological data clearly shows that in corporate meetings and project discussions, women and minorities are interrupted at significantly higher rates than their peers. Over time, these microaggressions compound. Being spoken over damages a person's professional visibility and slowly drains the authority of those whose contributions are already marginalized. The ability to speak without being cut off is quite literally a currency of power. Look at who gets to speak freely and who gets silenced, and you will see a perfect map of a society's underlying hierarchies. Knowing how much we hate being cut off, creatives actively use that frustration against us to provoke profound emotional responses. In live theater, breaking the fourth wall interrupts an audience's passive immersion. It jolts you out of the story and forces you into active participation with the performers. Authors like James Joyce employ stream of consciousness narration to deliberately mimic the chaotic, constantly interrupted flow of actual human thought. Those artistic disruptions are intentional. Today, we face a different disruption, built directly into the architecture of the tools we rely on to communicate. In virtual meetings, delays in audio transmission and overlapping digital signals cause polite conversations to stutter and collide, creating artificial, unintentional coughs. Zoom out to the broader internet ecosystem, and the design is deliberate. Social media platforms rely on continuous notifications, comments, and reactions, engineered to fracture our attention spans minute by minute. We have moved beyond interrupting each other by choice. We now live inside a technological infrastructure that forces a continuous state of disruption upon us. The next time someone cuts you off mid-sentence, you can use that moment as a real-time diagnostic tool. You can observe the hierarchy, the culture, or the technological friction actively shaping your room. Because human impulse and digital lag will always exist, aiming to completely eradicate interruptions is a lost cause. The real objective is to strategically manage them. For human collaboration, this means implementing structural solutions. Project managers can use time-box discussions and appoint rigid moderators to ensure diverse voices actually get their fair share of speaking time. In the digital sphere, we need to program our AI and virtual assistants to detect subtle conversational context cues, allowing them to respect the natural flow of dialogue instead of triggering off blunt, literal commands. This network diagram shows chaotic data streams resolving into a balanced, equitable flow. By deliberately designing the rules of our conversations, whether we are talking to a human or an algorithm, we can balance the need for progress with the protection of marginalized voices. When interruptions do happen, they can become tools to drive the discussion forward, rather than holding it back.